So I played Necromunda Hired Gun, and the first thing I did in this game was pet a dog. 10 out of 10, no notes. Okay, for realsies now. You need to get a bit acquainted with this game before it really works. I was drawn in enough by the 40k theme and visuals to get me there, but if you're not a fan of the crumbling remains of epic empires, you might just be facing a confusing and somewhat glitchy experience. Like, sometimes you straight up can't talk to an NPC because the prompt won't show up, even though there's a clear marker directing you to talk to that NPC right now. Adorably, the workaround seems to be to pet the dog first. Probably because it's an NPC interaction you can do at any time in the hub area, but yeah, well, once you figure out how to get around, buy some new abilities, get a hang of the combat, the game gets better, which I think is something a bunch of Steam reviewers didn't really get to, which is life. It also helps that the game looks pretty good out of combat. Well, except for dialogues, which blur out most of the screen for some reason I can't fathom. In combat, there's some issues. For one, enemies don't stand out against the environment like at all. It's often quite dark, and the enemies are also dark. It would be just fine for some slow-paced military shooter, but this game is trying to be fast as fuck. It's kind of fixed by the option, which is turned on by default, of highlighting the enemies, but now you're shooting white blobs instead of characters. Like, it's... I don't know. I played most of the game with this option on, and when I turned it off, I kind of missed it, but at the same time it kind of looks better when they're actually enemies, even if you can hardly see them. I guess it's a matter of difficulty. Like, I started playing on hard and then I switched to normal, and I guess at that point I could have turned off the white blob thing. Anyway, sometimes you can't even see the blobs because your whole screen is obscured by smoke, particles, and other garbage. This makes higher difficulties very annoying to play because even just on hard you can die in a few hits, and enemies love to spawn behind you and then jump around while blasting you with mountains of particles. There are more immersive options that let you scan for them so you can see them through. Some of that crap at least. Still doesn't work for everything, but yeah, your dog can detect them, and there's a special ability that gives you something akin to thermal vision, which points out the enemies but makes navigating them near impossible. So I'm guessing that's how they tried to fix this issue, but you kind of have to try the various options and difficulties and just see what feels best. I finally just stuck to normal difficulty, turned off the outline, the blob thing, and used my dog or the scanner thing when things got too fucked. It worked. On normal, I could make it work. On hard, not so much. And while I'm complaining about combat, the health regen system is like an okay idea, but it falls short because they forgot to add any reliable heal that you can replenish during a mission. You can heal either using health packs, which you can only buy at the start of the mission, stim packs, which are basically respawns that you can also buy at checkpoints, but these are expensive, or by damaging enemies from close up shortly after you've been damaged. It's something like 5 seconds. You can upgrade that, but only minimally, so 5 seconds more or less. And the health and stim packs are just rarely available backups. This combat region is clearly what the game wants you to use, and it kinda works, except when you need it the most, which is when you're fighting a ton of enemies and need to reload. Yeah, reloading is what ultimately made me drop the difficulty from hard to normal, because I could only stay alive while constantly dishing out damage, and reload paused that long enough for me to fucking die. I also don't know why the only shortly after being hit limitation is necessary. like there's already the limitation that you need to be close to the enemy to get any real healing, so you can't like play carefully and heal up from a distance. There's just no way to heal from a distance unless you want to burn one of the super rare health packs. And like if I'm low, charging someone and hitting them first should be a viable move with this like aggressive playstyle the game seems to want me to play, but that will make me heal less, because if I open fire first, then those first shots will not heal me because I haven't been recently damaged. So like I need the enemy to damage me first, and only then should I fire back, and that's how I can heal. Just like why? Also, bonus points for late game featuring hordes of super mobile enemies that jump around whenever you approach them. Like that would be a perfectly fine thing for enemies to do if being in their face wasn't my only way to heal. Like Doom did this so much better. The new Doom, that is. Actually, the old Doom as well. Health packs that you can find would be better. Being able to just heal through finishing moves, like properly heal, as you do in the new Doom games, that would also work. Though I kind of prefer being able to also heal when just shooting someone. Close up would be a fine limitation to that if there wasn't a time limit. I wasn't a super big fan in Doom of having to like execute almost every enemy because the animations took time, and the execution animations in this game are even longer. Well, but then again, those aren't like finishing moves. You just get a melee attack that is kind of a charged thing. Like have an amount of meleeing power. The stronger an enemy you want to take down, the more it will be consumed, and then it regens. Which is fine. I just wish it would heal me more, so like that would be a viable option. But again, unless I get shot first, no heal. But aside from all that, the combat is pretty cool. You have lots of mobility, you have double jumps, wall runs, a dash, a grappling hook, and using all of this is encouraged by giving you a chance to avoid damage while doing all these fancy moves. It's about like a 50% dodge rate that also can be upgraded more. And you also get like a few superpowers, more or less, like a lightning charge and a fireball or something. They're called something appropriate for 40k, but fuck if I remember. You shoot lightning from your ass or something. It's cool. Personally, I still opted for a more cautious playstyle a lot of the time, picking enemies off with a sniper rifle from as far as possible. That's because I'm not a fan of enemies spawning right behind me. If you move just close enough for them to actually spawn, because they often only do so when you advance through the level, you can often pick them off safely, and then usually the next pack spawns, you can pick them off, and so on. Often, not always. Sometimes the game will lock you in a room and just keep spawning enemies all around you, and all you can do is like shoot them frantically. There's a pretty wide range of upgrades for everything. You, your dog, your weapons. For you and your dog, those are like straight up upgrades. For weapons, it's more like customization. Like you can tweak them quite a bit. The same basic submachine gun can be turned into either a short range, high DPS ammo burner, or something akin to a traditional assault rifle for like more medium range work. And that's on top of there being a pretty good variety of weapons in general. Pretty much all of which feel like they are worth using in some situations, and more importantly, they pack appropriate punch. I mean that in like what it feels like to shoot them. I don't know how else to say it. There's weapons in FPSs that feel meaty, and then there's ones that feel like shooters. And the 40k FPS could not get away with the pea shooters, so they delivered some bloody ordnance. The weapons are good. Some people in the reviews have pointed out that the customization feels like super finicky, and yeah, But really, around mid-game, I just basically made a set of weapons and used them the rest of the game. Maybe I changed like 1 or 2 of them afterwards. You can carry 5 custom weapons and 1 basic weapon that you can't switch out for some reason. So yeah, those you can kind of just deck yourself out for every situation and then forget about the upgrade system if you don't want to fuck with it, because like I said, it's customizations, like side grades. Very few of them are pure upgrades, so you don't need to spend time on that. So the weapon thing is fine, you can even mostly ignore it, but the upgrades for you and your dog, they're quite important and they cost a ton of money. And there's only like so much of money to be found, unless you play the side missions. Unfortunately, the side missions are total garbage. I had planned to grind up some cash for good upgrades and play through the game on hard, but after 3 side missions I decided to just stick with the story. The first one was to defend an area, which meant defending against huge enemy waves without leaving a tiny area. After several honest and hopeless attempts due to getting absolutely swarmed, I beat it by sitting in a barrel while AI companions and my dog did all the work. The second one was to take out some enemy officers, which I did by sitting on one end of a long ass tunnel with a sniper rifle while they slowly filed in the other end. Riveting. The third one was to grab some dead bodies, which meant moving through the level to pick them up, while frankly stupid amounts of enemies kept spawning all around me. They were actually infinite, and they happily spawned in every direction at once. I don't have words for how much I hate these 2 things. Infinite spawns and spawns right behind you. That just removes any ability to approach the mission strategically. You're left with the frantic run and gun in which you either can bash your head through the level or not. I could not. I rather reduced difficulty to normal and just went back to the main story. By the way, even on normal difficulty, like if it was that mission, didn't feel like I had a fucking chance. Fortunately, the story missions are mostly pretty cool. There's no infinite spawns there, except maybe a couple of times where you just have to like run to a door. And there's great looking and varied maps with some story stuff happening along the way, so it's not just a shooting gallery. There are sometimes a lot of spawns though, and I totally forgot to give bosses health bars. I don't think it's always necessary to have health bars for bosses, but I will be shooting the damn thing for 10 minutes straight, running out of ammo for most of my weapons. I want a damn health bar to know how I'm progressing. Like, they do have some kind of health bar, it's just like hidden. Because when you hit an enemy, you see this like white hit marker, and when you kill them, you see a red one. And you can tell the bosses have multiple health bars, because it will get to the red one, and then the boss will maybe change his behavior a bit, because like their phases, they have 3 health bars often. Yeah, I would prefer to see the fucking health bar. The story maps are pretty big, varied, and they mostly get better the further you go. Some of them even have twists, like there's one that's practically a horror game, and they're rather well done too. It reminded me of Aliens vs Predator 2. Unfortunately, most players don't seem to even make it that far. 58.7% beat Chapter 2, while only 24% beat Chapter 7 and 15.5% beat the whole campaign. I think a lot of people robbed themselves here. Like, I can see why. The early missions really did feel mostly like shooting galleries, and that's what some Steam reviews say. Like, yeah, you kinda had to keep going, just like, power through it. Like, there's kind of a story that you can follow there. It hardly feels like one. Most missions are barely related to it. It's revealed in a handful of cutscenes, and the rest of the time the NPCs kind of just exist like in your base to tell you about the next mission. So you can like have to walk in between the same 3 NPCs, and they will like give you some really boring actually nonsense about like, oh, there's this dome with spooky stuff in there, go check it out. Yeah, okay, that's great engaging plot. whatever. At the very end, they try to pull some kind of twist and make a couple of NPCs into actual characters. But you can't do a twist if there was nothing to twist up to that point. Like, yeah, so the story is really threadbare. There is, however, world building. Like, all of those missions that just have some generic stuff to do. Like, you're a mercenary fighting in the endless gang wars of Necromunda. All of them fit that theme, and it's really the only story you get for almost all of the game, but together with the map design, it's actually quite immersive. I've seen a lot worse. I could go on being a mercenary and Necromunda. It feels fun. I like the music, by the way. Maybe because I'm just so used to orchestral soundtracks in games that any game that pulls out some rock is automatically winning the music category. Or maybe because it's actually good and fits both the setting and the pace of combat. Performance seemed fine-ish, but I did get a couple of crashes. And also loading times on an NVMe drive were somehow still a good 20 seconds on every load. As in, like, when you're not loading the whole level, but just like a checkpoint after dying. I mean, actually maybe it is loading the whole level each time. There's no like quick save or anything. Usually the checkpoints load faster than the whole level in like most games, not in this one. So yeah, performance isn't terrible, but not amazing. Yeah, overall, there's a playable game in there, quite fun even. And most of the story levels were actually really enjoyable. It didn't take very long to beat, but that also means I didn't get bored. Like, think of this as a classical shooter. Remember before all the open world crap came around, roughly 10 hours was how long a shooter would take to beat? And, well, technically the extra garbage content is in there if you want. It's just very easy to just ignore it and play the story. This actually gets extra marks from me. Still, there is quite a bit of jank and nothing super spectacular, so yeah, I'll give it a 7 out of 10 in total. If you're not expecting a giant AAA game, the story missions will give you a couple nights of solid 40k FPS fun.